Hey there, Gemini. Welcome to your reading. This is going to be a 2026 reading, and we are going to look at what is the main theme for you for 2026. And I am going to be doing some deeper 2026 readings later on this month, but for now, this is what we're going to do. You have this Pisces card. It says boundaries. It says set and honor your boundaries to avoid being taken advantage of. Yes. You have the Scorpio card. It says the underworld. It says awaken your inner witch to maximize your potential and connect to the universal energies. So boundaries is going to be a big deal for you because you're kind of like marching to the beat of your own drum now, Gemini. And, again, there might be people who disagree with some of the changes that you're making, especially over the next 7 years or so with Uranus in your sign. And, your job is to just listen to yourself, plain and simple. Also, I'm going to give you a little bit, you're the only sign, actually, that's going to get a little bit of a bonus here. So there is one thing looking at your chart that I would work on, and it might not come up in this reading, so that's why I'm going to say it. And that is, if I were you, I would pick one thing to improve your finances. It's a great time for Gemini to level up their finances, but I would pick one thing that you stick to, and it could be very simple. I'll give you some examples. One, for example, even if you agree to save $5 a week and put it in a bank account, right? That might sound stupid, and it might not sound like it'll add up to much, but trust me, I think that, just something as simple as that could make a big impact on your finances. And I just looking at your astrology and everything going on, I think having a simple financial practice would be a really good idea for you to stick to. But the trick is you got to stick to it. So if it's $5 a week, then every single week, no matter what, you do that, right? It could also be learning about your finances as well. Just, simply educating yourself or something. I just think you have a great opportunity to, kind of do something, create a positive habit, and I would if I were you. So jumping into the reading here, my intention for these readings, doing this as a Celtic cross, is that your first card is going to be the theme of 2026 for you, and the rest of the cards are kind of the supporting elements. So you have the Two of Swords here. Pretty obvious to me, Gemini, and this is innovation, right? The Two of Swords doesn't really represent innovation, but she's thinking this or that when really she needs to go over here to this island behind her. So I would say third place solutions, as I always say to you. Uranus is entering into your sign officially in the springtime of 2026. So, that's all about third place solutions. Anything you're working on, coming up with a better or different way to do it is going to be very beneficial. The other thing I would say is idea sex, right? Two ideas coming together. So you're a Gemini. This is your superpower, one of your superpowers. Being able to mix different, seemingly unrelated ideas together could be very beneficial as well. Not just in work, but pretty much all areas of your life. And so I would be looking at how you can innovate through mixing together, right? And this could be could be anything. I don't really have any good ideas other than I go for a walk every single day, right? On my walk, I listen to a podcast. When I listen to the podcast, I'm taking notes, right? I use those notes to write my newsletter, for example, right? It's I'm mixing two things together. I'm doing two things at once. If you look at some of the shorts that I've been creating, they are kind of two ideas together, right? And so you're going to have to put your thinking cap on, but anything you're creating, anything you're doing, I call those activities compound activities, when I walk and I'm also working at the same time. So it's can you also create compound activities where you're doing two things at once, or where you can get a better bang for your buck for what you're doing? And I feel like that is the focus. You're entering into a new world. And again, she is stuck in a stalemate, but she needs to realize that if she puts those swords down and she looks behind her, she stops trying to protect herself, she will open up to a new world. And you have the world as your crossing energy. So of course, this doesn't mean that you shouldn't have boundaries or that you shouldn't protect yourself from things that are dangerous. But what I would say is the crossing energy can be what hurts you or helps you in a Celtic cross. And I feel like the Two of Swords is saying, what are you protecting yourself from that you don't need to be protecting yourself from? And, things that aren't dangerous, right? And, it could be anything. It's I think sometimes we protect ourselves from love, right? Where it's we want it, but we say we don't, or we do things to push it away when we want it in the first place. So that's one example. But I would be looking at maybe what you're avoiding as well, because I feel like these two cards want you to do that. Again, the world is your crossing energy. The world can be an accomplishment or an achievement. It's like I do feel like there is some sort of accomplishment that you want, that you're trying to achieve. Like I said, it is a great time for you to level up. I feel it's an amazing year for you to work on your confidence, which also shows up with the King of Wands showing up here. So the world could say that you need to start having small accomplishments, and maybe that's why I said the $5 thing. Again, it might sound silly, but like once you prove that you can do it to, I do believe as humans, we have to prove things to ourselves. Otherwise, we're not going to do them, right? It's like been proven many times that if your brain doesn't believe you can do something, you're not going to do it, right? And so I think if we start small, even with just $5, and that becomes easy, it's like maybe over time you say, I could probably make it 20, and then before you know it, you're like saving like 100 or like 200 a week, and that adds up quick, right? So, I think if we start small and we prove to ourselves we can do things, then we do, and we do better over time. And I feel like the world is saying you need to start proving to yourself that you can do what you want to do, right? And you might have to start small. You have the King of Wands in the area of what's on your mind, or the area of your thoughts. The King of Wands is very confident, bold, assertive. These are all great energies for 2026. Again, Saturn especially moving back into Aries in February. Really we have to be bold, assertive, and confident, to be able to make progress. So I think this is a great energy for you to work with. Again, you can start small with the King of Wands as well. He is also very innovative. We don't consider him intuitive, but he kind of is. He has the gift of foresight. He can come up with an idea that is very futuristic, and he can innovate on ideas as well. So again, I would be innovating. That's definitely going to be one of your themes because of Uranus in your sign pretty much all year. You have the Queen of Cups as your foundation. Yeah, really good card to get in your foundation this year. We've been in a very heart-based energy. I always think that Uranus and Taurus. Uranus is retrograding in Taurus right now. Like I said, it doesn't move back into your sign until the spring. And, Uranus and Taurus is very heart-based. Even when Uranus leaves Taurus, that doesn't mean we stop, right? We have to keep going. And so I would say that you are probably in a space where you are following your heart more. I don't know if I said this, but this is coming up in the area of your foundation. And so it is going to be important for your foundation to work from your heart. You have the Two of Swords, right? She is trying to protect her heart by having those swords over her heart. And so it's like, I don't really have any good examples, Gemini, but sometimes people will come to me and they'll say, like, I don't know what my purpose is, for example. They really do know what their purpose is, but the problem is society, teachers, things like that, right? It's like society tells us like, you have to go to school and become a lawyer or an accountant or whatever, something that you don't want to be doing, right? And so, if our purpose is like knitting, for example, we might not think like, I can't be successful doing that. So it's like people really do know what their purpose is, but they think that it has to be something like that they think that the world will think is important. The Queen of Cups says like, no, you should be doing what fulfills your heart, whatever it is. And again, there's never been a time in history like this where I read pieces of paper with a picture on them for a living, like pretty freaking crazy, right? So it's like, even if knitting was your purpose, you could probably start a social media that would make you more money than being a lawyer, right? So, again, I think that if you put your thinking cap on, you will find a solution. And I do feel there is something about you discovering your purpose with this Queen of Cups, like what you actually want to be doing. And you might have to think deep about this here, Gemini. Next, in your past position, you have this Go the Distance card and this Chaos and Conflict card. Yeah, this is very Pluto and Capricorn energy. We've had Pluto and Aquarius all year, 2025, and it's not going to go back into Capricorn. But again, when you think about it, we've been under that influence for like 20 years before, this 2025, right? And so I think that we're all still just too used to Pluto and Capricorn. So Pluto and Capricorn, we can try and go the distance, but if we try to go the distance, there might be chaos or conflict, or we try to make progress on a project and we do make a little bit of progress, but then we go backwards. So I think we're all just too used to that energy of like backsliding or going backwards. And, I think it's a good time to lock your progress in, to keep making progress, to keep the momentum going, right? And also to realize that, things aren't necessarily going to pop up that are going to stop you, like what used to happen, right? And so there's really nothing to be afraid of. You have the strength card also showing up in the past position. I feel you've done a lot of work on yourself. The strength card, this is her inner critic, the lion. It is submitting to her, and she's the one that's controlling it. So it kind of says that you have done a lot of work on your own inner strength or your inner critic or your inner voice or inner demons. This is something that she has to do every single day. I always look at the strength card as having some sort of practice. And again, that's why I told you about the, saving $5 a week or something like that. And so it seems to me like it will be a good year for you to have a practice or to develop practices, like things that you do consistently. Again, I am getting the message on that chaos and conflict card that I would be careful of backsliding. I would be looking at the numbers in your life. Like if there is, a milestone that you always hit and then you go backwards, that is what I would push through, right? And it could be like weight. For example, it's like me. For me, I've lost weight a bunch of times in my life. I always get to like 155, and then I start eating ice cream again, and then I just gain all the weight back, right? And so it's like, it could be anything for you, Gemini, whatever it is, right? Whatever that, and I'm not saying it's weight. It could just be something, something that you work towards where maybe you always get to a point, and then you go backwards, and, I would work on pushing past that. Next, in the area of your very near future, you have this take time to breathe out card. You also have this card that says it's time to release negativity. Yes, definitely. I would definitely be focusing more on the positive at this time. I think we need more positivity in the world, so I would, of course, do that. I also, taking a break, not pushing all the time could be important for you. Also, in the very near future, you show up as the Lovers, which is your card. So whenever you show up as yourself, it puts you in a position of power and strength and allows you to get what you want from the reading. It could be love coming in for some of you. Again, these readings aren't meant to be about love or anything, just the main theme of the year is what we're looking at. But again, love could be a supporting element. So if you want love, sure. Like I said, I am going to be doing some more 2026 readings this month, and they're going to be deeper and about more of like love and stuff like that. So we'll see what comes up, but I do feel that this is mostly talking about you, and I feel it's probably talking about you picking a new path. The Lovers traditionally was a choice in love to make, but I think that the Lovers can also just be a choice that you have to make in life in general, and I always say pick the new path with the Lovers. Next, in the area of your outcome, you have this love card. It says, love is the greatest success on the path to prosperity, Queen of Cups. Who can fully experience abundance without it? You have a schedule card. Can't make that up, right? It says, most forms of prosperity require time and effort to manifest. Do you have room in your schedule for abundance you are wanting to attract? Like I said, I think having some sort of routine or schedule or, a thing that you follow, like the example I gave, is the secret to your success this year. And you could have a couple, right? I go for a walk every day. That's part of my routine, right? So it's like there could be a couple of things, a couple of activities that you follow through every single week that really keep you going, and that's what I would do here. Love is clearly going to be a very important energy for you, and that does not have to be a person. This is, I think it is the energy of love, meaning that you do more of what you love this year, and obviously it's part of the theme. Next, over the next few months, you have the Five of Wands, chaos and conflict, right? So I wouldn't worry too much about this. You're a Gemini, you can handle the chaos, number one. Number two, I've been saying for years that we're in a time of chaos and conflict, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it. And it really is how you look at it, right? You can take part in this competition, or you can choose to study this competition on the card, and you can rise above it, which is exactly what I would be doing here, Gemini. You don't just because there's chaos going on around you doesn't mean you have to be a part of it, right? And you can also take advantage of it, which is exactly what I would do. I would be studying the competition, especially in work or business, because again, I think you have an amazing opportunity to level up your finances this year. It's going to require work. It's going to require a process that you follow. But if you do, you will be happy that you did. So, that's what I would be doing. I also think you have the opportunity to stand above the competition. So, that's what I would do here. Next, in the area of your closest relationships, you have the Seven of Pentacles. Pretty much all year of 2025, you have had things coming up about all the connections in your life. And the Seven of Pentacles is about, is the juice worth the squeeze? He's looking at those Seven Pentacles and he's saying, is it worth it for me to invest my time, effort, attention into these people? Or is there something better that I could do with my time? And again, I can't answer that question for you. Only you can answer that question, Gemini. But I would be, I think it would be a good year for you to look at your connections and make sure you're surrounding yourself with the people who really support you, of course, with the Seven of Pentacles. I think you're ready for a change. It's like sometimes I think we outgrow people, and it's like not that they're bad people or that we don't want to have them in our lives, but maybe we just want to spend less time, or maybe we're looking for people who cause us to level up, and that's what I would be focusing on with that card. Next, you have the Eight of Wands in the area of your future feelings, which is amazing. Eight of Wands is like charging forward toward success. It is quick conclusions. It just feels to me like you feel like you're getting somewhere, Gemini. It's like the word that's popping into my head is like traction, but it feels like sticky to me. And I mean that in a good way. So I don't like sticky things either, Gemini. But what I would say here is it like feels like you're moving forward and you're actually like sticking in place. Like if you take a break, you're not going to backslide. Like I said earlier in the reading, you're going to stay where you are. And so, I feel like this is more sticky success, if that makes sense, where you start making progress. And even if you take a break, even if you take a month off, things stay the same, at least. Maybe they don't improve during that time, but at least you don't go, you're not like taking 20 steps back, right? And so I feel very good about this Eight of Wands. It is one of my favorite cards in the tarot. It's just a really good card. The other thing about the Eight of Wands is that it represents focus. All those wands are pointing in the same direction. I always say the trick with Eight of Wands is we cannot be pulling in two directions, but it's coming up in the area of your future feelings, so I feel like you are focusing in one direction, and that will bring success in faster, of course. Your outcome is the Four of Cups. Four of Cups can be disappointment or be not accepting an opportunity here. He has these 3 cups in front of him, and he's not accepting this cup because he's been disappointed 3 times before. So it's almost like you're getting an opportunity that you should accept because you have the knowledge from these 3 cups that you can apply to this 1 cup. You have the Two of Swords. Like I said, it does feel to me with the Two of Swords that maybe you're protecting yourself just a little bit too much. Of course, I'm not saying that you shouldn't protect yourself, but I do feel the reading is saying it is safe for you to open up a little bit more. So again, I would be, if this is love, you could open up a little bit more to a person that you're with, and it will be safe, right? Same thing with like any innovations. Maybe you're too used to things failing, and this is saying, of course things will always fail in life, that's how life works, but what I would say is that you're probably going to make more progress than you think with that Eight of Wands, and so I feel it's saying you can take some bigger risks. So we're going to clarify this reading here, Gemini, and see what else wants to come up. So let's see. With the Two of Swords in the World, you have the Four of Wands. A lot of people have been getting the Four of Wands, like, yeah, sure, could be marriage, but, really I feel with Neptune and Saturn moving back into Aries, we really have to be committed to the things that we want to work. And so anything that you really want to work in your life, I would just make sure that you commit, that you're all in. I always say that, Pluto and Aquarius, it's like the star card. The star is Aquarius, right? But the star, she's kind of just dipping her toes in the water. And I've been saying all year, 2025, that we can't just dip our toes in the water. We have to go all the way with whatever it is we're creating. And as long as you do that, then things will go well. With the King of Wands, you have the Hierophant. Really funny, you're like the 4th person that has had the Hierophant in the area of what's on your mind, because we have Neptune and Pisces. Neptune will move into Aries, of course, in January, but what I would say is Neptune and Pisces is traditional belief, and the Hierophant is traditional belief. And so Neptune and Pisces is a direct challenge to traditional belief. So, but it's funny that it's coming up in 2026, because Neptune will be in Aries. I think there's like a million things that could be going on here. Number one, I think we could all be changing our beliefs, of course. I also think that we could be maybe thinking a little bit more outside the box, which is good, especially with Uranus and Gemini in your sign. So I just get a little bit of outside the box thinking, which is exactly what you need. With the Queen of Cups, you have the Death card. Yeah, big changes. I mean, it is we are in a time of significant change. Again, we will never experience anything like this again in our lifetimes. Like even in the future, like very few, it'll be many generations before a time like this happens again, where we have Pluto changing signs, and then we have a bunch of other major planets that all change signs within like a year of each other, basically, since Pluto, right? And so, yeah, I mean, I think major change. With the Strength card, you have the King of Swords. King of Swords is like knowledge and wisdom. It's the things that you've practiced. And so I feel a lot of you have gained a lot of knowledge and wisdom that have probably made you stronger. The King of Swords is a little bit of a leader, so you could be taking your knowledge that you've gained, like the strength that you've gained, and using it in the future, which is good. With the Lovers, you have the Six of Cups. Yeah, Six of Cups would be like a very playful, childlike connection. Personally, I do not read it as a person from the past. To me, it's a new person. It can represent innocence and nostalgia, but it doesn't necessarily represent a person coming back from the past. But could be a soulmate. And again, I do think that even though these readings aren't meant to be love readings, if you want love, it could be a person who supports your innovations, right? Which, again, the main theme of this reading is innovation. Now, as far as innovation is concerned, Six of Cups is amazing for that. Why? Because two things. Number one, Six of Cups, very creative. Children ask a lot of questions. A great way to innovate is to ask a lot of questions, right? And to study and learn and all those other things. The other thing is that I always say this girl here, she has this, it looks like an oven mitt that's on her hand. Sometimes I think the Six of Cups can come up if we are being too delicate with the thing, if we're trying to hold on to things with gloves on. We have the South Node in Virgo, and the South Node in Virgo wants us to be messy. The problem with the South Node in Virgo is we don't want to be messy. And so we have to be willing to break things, meaning, again, many great innovations were a mistake. Super glue was a mistake that someone discovered. Chocolate chip cookies were a mistake that someone discovered, right? So it's like sometimes we have to break things to innovate. Sometimes we have to be willing to make a mistake that actually turns out to be something amazing. And I feel this is saying, like, don't try to be perfect at this time. With the Five of Wands, you have the Six of Swords. Yes, moving on to calmer shores. I think we're going to see a lot of craziness in the world this year. This is going to continue till 2028, as I always say to you, really until the end of Uranus and Gemini, 2033, right? But what I would say is I feel that we have the option to move on to calmer shores. We have the option to create, peace, happiness, calmness in our own lives, and that's what we have to do. No one's coming to save us, right? So we have to do it ourselves, and there you go. With the Seven of Pentacles, you have the Emperor. A lot of leadership vibes going on here. King of Wands, King of Swords, this card, the World even. The World on a simple level encourages us to be on top of the world. That doesn't mean we will be, but it means that it wants us to. And so I would do whatever you can to take the lead in whatever you're doing. Could also be attracting an Emperor, so love looks good. With the Eight of Wands, you have the Judgment card. Didn't I say purpose? I'm pretty sure that I said something about your purpose at the beginning. So Judgment is about understanding your purpose. With the Eight of Wands, it could also represent hearing messages. So you literally could be getting messages in your dreams, your daydreams, just random downloads. And we've been talking about this all year because of Uranus and Gemini. The thing about Uranus and Gemini is it's like a ticker tape going through your brain. It's like the ideas come in and they go straight out, right? So I think Gemini-based people need to have a notebook. Mine's all the way over there, right? So if you have Gemini in your chart, even like I'm a Gemini moon, right? I have 20 freaking notebooks all around me because any idea I have, I write it down, right? Because during Uranus and Gemini, those ideas, they might not make sense immediately, or the downloads you receive, or the things that you think of, or the things you think about, but they might make sense in the future. So I would be, collecting your messages with this card. With the Four of Cups, you have the Queen of Pentacles. Yeah, money. Like I said, I think you have an amazing opportunity to level up your finances. So I would pick a practice something. There are like a billion freaking videos on YouTube about everything you could possibly imagine. So I would go do some research about like improving your finances or leveling up your business or whatever it is you want to do. And I would just pick one thing and make it a practice, right? Sorry, I threw it. you have this power card. Yeah, amazing time for air signs to gain power. Again, Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto is in an air sign. It'll benefit all air signs. So Pluto is where we get our power, and a lot of you could be thinking about how to become more powerful in your life, how to take your power back, all that. Next, you have this impulsiveness card. You could find yourself being a little impulsive. I think really this is external. Uranus and Gemini will make people tell you that you are being impulsive. They might not actually use the word impulsive. They might use crazy, or you're making a bad decision, or something like that, right? And your job is to not listen because they are not you. So there you go. You have this bluff card again. So again, you might be, this card is about, let me back up a little bit here, Gemini, and say this card is about doing things that people think that you can't do. It's like you're calling people's bluff, but you're not doing it like actually doing it. You're just doing it by doing, right? And so it is an amazing year, I think, for you to call people's bluff, to do things that really surprise people. And you really could be surprising a lot of people. Next, you have this intuition card. Yes, very intuitive. 8 of Wands, judgment, downloading those messages, right? So I would be capturing your messages for sure. And finally, you have this risk card. Yes, 2 of Swords. She has to take the risk of going to that island behind her. So risk-taking is going to be very good for you as well, Gemini. But this looks pretty good, pretty simple. Innovation, that's your keyword for the year. So thank you for being here. Make sure to like, leave a comment, and definitely enjoy your year.